My name is Wei. I'm from Singapore, and I actually graduated from the INSEAD MBA about 2 weeks ago. So it's actually a really interesting time to be graduating right now. Before INSEAD, I had about 5 years of work experience. I was based in Tokyo, working in a Japanese pharmaceutical company. I was part of their rotational program. So at first, I was in the human resources department. Then I moved into the corporate strategy department. And in university, I studied journalism in Singapore. So I think doing an MBA was really a big change for me. And I think why I decided to switch from journalism to an MBA, I think firstly, I really wanted to move into a corporate career instead of journalism, right? Because in journalism, usually you write an article every day, and also you tend to work by yourself. And for me, I really wanted to have a career where it's not just about doing something every day. It's about achieving both long-term and short-term goals. And I feel like a corporate career would really help me to do something like that, to help a company achieve both its short-term and long-term goals. And why I decided to go for an MBA was that when I was in the corporate strategy department in my company in Japan, it made me realize that I was very interested in working in strategy and business development type of roles. And it's something that I want to do for the long term. But I also increasingly realized that I lacked the essential business skills such as accounting and finance, which was preventing me from advancing in the same career path, which is why I decided to pursue an MBA to hopefully boost my career. One thing about INSEAD is that it really values diversity, right? And by diversity, I don't mean just nationalities or cultures, but I also mean diversity in terms of academic backgrounds and professional experiences. Because having all these different kinds of people coming together allows us to each bring the skills that we have to the table so that we can all contribute something towards, let's say, a project to really boost the project results. At INSEAD, we're split into two main campuses, right? France and Singapore. And you can basically choose your first campus, and you can also choose to switch between campuses as part of your campus exchange. So I went to the Fontainebleau campus in France at first. I think there were about 300 of us, so about 60% of the students who went to the French campus with me. It was actually really daunting at first because, I think for most people who got into INSEAD, they would be used to being at the top of their game. Back at work or back at their company, they probably would be used to being very high performers. And coming into this MBA where everyone else is a top performer as well, and everyone else also has lived in different countries, and they also speak multiple languages, and they also have all kinds of achievements. It makes you feel like it is a little bit daunting at first, I would say, only because you're so used to being at the top of your game, and you come into this program and everyone else is the same, and you feel like you're not special anymore. So that was the initial sentiment I had. But I think over time, in INSEAD, you learn what makes you special, and you learn what makes you unique, such that I think at the end of the day, everyone comes out as a very confident person, confident of who they are, and confident of what makes them special as well. So I think really INSEAD was a great experience for me. I did not come from a technical background, and coming to INSEAD, I think highlighted the fact that people probably have stronger experiences in terms of finance or in terms of operations, for example. So that is one thing that was highlighted in INSEAD, which is not a surprise to me, but it's one thing that INSEAD highlighted. But I also have other skills that I realized that people did not have, or are not as strong in. So for example, a lot of times, coming from a more creative background, I tend to approach a problem differently. And when we do group work, maybe the people who are coming from technical backgrounds would tend to approach a problem from a very technical perspective, right? And usually when it comes to technical perspectives, they try to aim for maybe a right answer. So there would be a right and wrong answer, and so the issue would tend to be black and white. Whereas for me, coming from a creative background, I tend to see things in terms of the gray area. So working in a group, me coming from a more creative background, working with people who come from more technical backgrounds, I think it really, as a group, I think we really brought out the entire spectrum of colors that is available in a business situation, for example. So I think that was what I realized about myself, that coming from a different background, I could still contribute in many ways, even though I wasn't a technical expert. So that's the hard skills. The soft skills, I think what I realized about myself at INSEAD is that probably what makes me an effective worker, an effective team player, and also what makes me not an effective team player. Because at INSEAD, in the first 4 months, we are allocated into fixed groups. So for every project in the first 4 months, we have to work with the same group, with the same members. And having this constant interaction creates a lot of familiarity with each other. So we would know each other's strengths and weaknesses, both as an individual and as a team player. And using all these experiences as a group, we would meet with our professional coach to discuss how we work and to discuss our group dynamics. And through this whole process, I received a lot of honest feedback about the way I performed in groups and what works and what does not work. So in terms of soft skills, I think what I really learned from INSEAD is what makes me an effective team player, and what are some of the traits that I have that makes me not so effective that I can try to improve on. And this kind of honest feedback is something that I would not have received elsewhere, I think. And even if you are someone who has not lived overseas before, or even if you're someone who have not really been in the kind of extremely diverse environments before, you can always show how you handle diversity, even from simple situations where maybe you're interacting on a one-to-one basis and that person is extremely different from you. How did you handle it? What are some problems that you faced, and how did you overcome these problems to bring the interaction towards more effective outcomes, right? So I think definitely handling diversity, handling the challenges that come with diversity to bring the team towards greater outcomes is something that everyone should highlight in their applications towards INSEAD. So INSEAD opens doors, I think, both professionally and personally. Maybe from the personal, side first, I think one takeaway I had with INSEAD is that I'm taking away, a group of friends who are like-minded, So when I say like-minded, I mean it in the sense that when I was in Singapore, my friends may not understand why I prefer being overseas. And coming to INSEAD, there's all these people who live overseas and who have been overseas and who want to be overseas as well. So I think in terms of my personal relationships, it really opens doors for me in terms of meeting people who really understand my life decisions. So that's in terms of personal relationships. In terms of professional relationships, INSEAD also opens doors because you have people coming from all kinds of backgrounds, right? From engineering, from the arts, and they also come from all over the world. So every time you need advice or you need a recommendation to speak to someone else, all you have to do is just ask the main group, to ask the alumni, or to go on LinkedIn to find someone from INSEAD and to ask that person to give you some advice. And usually, you will always receive the advice that you need. So professionally, it really opens many doors because whatever field you choose to go to eventually, or whatever geography you choose to go to eventually, there will always be someone at INSEAD who can help you out professionally as well. And I think at INSEAD, there's only 10 months or there's only 1 year that you can really go through the INSEAD experience. I think people really should be very driven by their objectives towards going for an MBA. So I think one challenge that definitely people will have is how do you ensure that you're able to manage the FOMO sentiments in a way that still allows you to achieve your goals instead of, you just doing something that everyone else is doing and not achieving your own goals in the end. So I think that's one challenge that I can probably think of that people at INSEAD would experience. One thing that I would like to tell people about INSEAD is really the true value that INSEAD has given me that I don't think many other schools might have given me. So I can think about this issue in terms of three aspects. Firstly, in terms of the hard skills, INSEAD has really given me fundamental skills in different technical areas such as finance, operations, and strategy. And, so now when I think about a business issue or a company situation, I'm able to think about it in terms of different areas and not just one single focus. So hard skills, of course, we can argue that all business schools will offer you, right? So my response would be that, besides hard skills, I also gained a lot of soft skills from INSEAD. And as I mentioned earlier, in the first 4 months at INSEAD, we are put into the same groups where every project we are working with the same members. And the constant interaction really help us to understand our fellow group members. And then we meet, as a group with a professional coach to sort of improve the way we work as a team. And, it's not just meeting as a group. So we also meet our professional coach on a one-to-one basis. And, these one-to-one meetings have also allowed me to raise personal awareness of myself and my own biases, my fears, my insecurities. And having this heightened sense of personal awareness really helps me to think about how to overcome these issues so that I can be always on top of my mental game in aiming towards a future leader. So both hard skills and soft skills, I think INSEAD has given me really fantastic opportunities. And one final thing that I would like to add that I think differentiates INSEAD from other business schools is really the global exposure, because we have campuses in Singapore, in France, in Abu Dhabi, in San Francisco, and we also have exchange partnerships with other schools in America and China. So most people end up going on an overseas exchange eventually. I think about 80% of us go on an overseas exchange. And the outcome is that really the student population is very, very exposed to global issues and global trends. And and even though other schools might offer overseas exchanges as well, I don't think it's at the level that INSEAD offers. So I really think, at INSEAD, I'm getting exposed to a range of global issues, and I'm getting connections to people who are extremely global as well, at a level that I think few other schools can offer.